Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking all that dense, abstract textbook theory and translating it into what is basically the ultimate organizational survival guide. You see, this foundational chapter lays the groundwork for literally everything that follows in the business world. We're going to prove that management isn't just some, corporate buzzword tossed around in fancy boardrooms. It is actually the very engine of human achievement. So, let's dive right in.
To kick things off, I've got a bit of a puzzle for you. Think about the stark differences between Smita Rai's Namchi Designer Candles, which is this small, rural, all-women enterprise nestled up in the hills of Sikkim, and the massive global Tata Steel conglomerate operating across 5 different continents. Okay, now throw in Mumbai's famous Dabbawalas, this massive network of people navigating absolute chaos on city streets to deliver thousands of home-cooked lunches every single day. On the surface, a rural village, a corporate boardroom, and the bustling streets of Mumbai have literally nothing in common. But behind the scenes, whether they know it or not, they are all relying on the exact same secret weapon to survive and thrive.
Here's our roadmap for explaining the chapter today. First, we've got the universal management puzzle. Then, defining efficiency versus effectiveness. Third, is management art or science? Fourth, levels and functions unpacked. And finally, coordination, the essential glue. Let's demystify exactly how this all works.
All right, jumping right into Section 1, the universal management puzzle.
So, management scholars Harold Kuntz and Heinz Weyrich define management as the process of planning, organizing, actuating, and controlling an organization's operations in order to achieve coordination of human and material resources essential in the effective and efficient attainment of objectives. Phew, I know, that is a serious mouthful. But if we actually unpack what they're saying, the core truth is super fascinating. Successful organizations do not achieve their goals by chance. No way. Without planning, you just have aimless wandering. Without controlling, you have absolute chaos. So whether you're, say, crafting customized Diwali candles or engineering a massive hydroelectric plant, you are engaging in a highly deliberate, structured process. You're actively taking raw materials and totally unpredictable humans and forcing them to align with one specific target.
Moving on to Section 2, defining efficiency versus effectiveness.
You hear these two words tossed around interchangeably all the time in the business world. But, and this is absolutely crucial, they mean entirely different things. Effectiveness is strictly about getting the job done, achieving the end goal, period. Imagine you have to produce 500 custom bracelets for a really critical high-paying client. Effectiveness means you hit that tight 4-day deadline. You got it done. Efficiency, on the other hand, is all about the cost of getting there. Did you have to pay your staff triple overtime, overnight air freight all the materials, and waste half your raw silver just to hit that deadline? Because if you deliver those 500 bracelets on time, but absolutely bankrupt your company doing it, well, you were incredibly effective, sure, but completely inefficient. A truly great manager has to flawlessly balance both.
And this delicate balancing act? It has to happen constantly, everywhere, because management shares a few universal characteristics. First, it's a goal-oriented process. It's pervasive, meaning these exact same rules apply to your local hospital just as much as an international retail chain. It's also multidimensional. Now, this is a really critical concept from the chapter. It means a manager has to simultaneously juggle the actual work being done, the incredibly complex personalities of the people doing it, and the physical operations making it happen all at the same time. And it never stops. It's a continuous, dynamic group activity. From a global titan like Tata Steel all the way to Smita Rai empowering rural women through candle sales, the daily grind is always going to require these continuous, multidimensional skills.
Which brings us to Section 3. Is management art or science?
This is honestly one of the most heavily debated questions in business academia. Think about it. Science is a systematized body of knowledge, right? It relies on rigid rules, repeated experimentation, and super clear cause and effect relationships. Think about the law of gravity. It behaves the exact same way every single time you drop an apple. Art, however, is the complete opposite. It's the highly personal, skillful application of knowledge. It relies on creativity, ingenuity, and basically reading the room. A master painter and a great manager both have to take theoretical knowledge and creatively apply it to the unique, messy situation right in front of them.
So what's the actual verdict here? Well, management is widely considered an inexact science. It lives right in the middle. Why? Because you are dealing with diverse, complex human beings. Unlike a carefully controlled chemistry experiment, if you apply intense pressure to a human employee, you might get a completely unpredictable and sometimes explosive reaction. Human behavior simply cannot be perfectly predicted or replicated in a vacuum. So yeah, management definitely has scientific principles and frameworks, but putting them into daily practice, that requires the highly nuanced, adaptive touch of an artist.
All right, let's look at Section 4, Levels and Functions, Unpacked.
This inexact science we just talked about is typically structured into a three-tier hierarchy within a company. At the very peak, you have top management. Leaders like GE's legendary Jack Welch sit up here, focusing purely on the big picture, creating a long-term vision and ensuring the overall survival of the organization. But listen, a visionary top manager would completely fail without the rest of the pyramid. Middle management acts as the vital bridge, translating those grand, abstract visions into concrete instructions for different departments. And finally, you have supervisory or operational management. These are the gritty, detail-oriented leaders on the factory floor or the front lines. They interact directly with the actual workforce, maintaining strict quality control, minimizing waste, and keeping people safe.
Now here is the really fascinating part. Regardless of where they sit in that hierarchy, every single manager performs these 5 interconnected functions. Think of it like a chronological journey. It always starts with planning, which basically means figuring out in advance exactly what needs to be done and who is going to do it. Next comes organizing, where the manager assigns duties, groups tasks, and hands out the physical resources needed to execute the plan. Then we hit staffing, the absolutely critical job of finding the right people with the right skills for those specific roles. After that is directing, where the manager actually leads, influences, and motivates those employees to do the work. And finally, controlling. This is where you monitor the actual performance, compare it against your original plan, and fix any deviations to ensure your goals are actually met. It is just an endless looping cycle.
Finally, Section 5, Coordination, the essential glue.
Think about it. What happens when you have all these different hierarchical levels, all these distinct functions and highly specialized departments, like purchasing, production, and sales, operating at the exact same time? Chaos. Just complete chaos. That is, unless you have coordination. Coordination is the invisible force that binds all the other functions of management together. It's the common thread that synchronizes the activities of entirely diverse groups toward one single, unified goal. Without this essential glue, specialists clash, departments build walls and silo themselves off, and your entire organizational system just grinds to a halt. You desperately need coordination to reconcile all that inherent friction across a company.
And honestly, there is absolutely no better proof of concept for perfect coordination than Mumbai's famous Dabbawalas. They are a recognized Six Sigma enterprise. If you aren't familiar with Six Sigma, it essentially means their process is so flawlessly optimized that they make only a tiny handful of errors per million transactions, and they do it entirely through coordination. It's like an incredible physical relay race. A lunch tiffin is picked up from a suburban home by one person, it's sorted at a wildly bustling railway station, transported via a crowded train, picked up by another designated Dabbawala at the destination, and dropped off directly at the correct office desk. It is a staggering, multi-step, perfectly timed choreography executed flawlessly on some of the busiest streets in the entire world, day after day.
As we step back from explaining the chapter today, we can clearly see exactly how management operates at its core. But our world is fundamentally changing, right? Borders are blurring, and communication technology has basically turned the globe into a highly interconnected village. A modern organization is very rarely just local anymore. So, if the foundational principles of management haven't really changed in a century, how will you apply them when your team is suddenly spread across 5 different time zones and communicating only through screens? How will your skills need to evolve to coordinate, motivate, and balance efficiency with effectiveness in tomorrow's landscape? I want you to really think about that as you apply these universal skills to your own life and career. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.